Johnny Cash came into the world on February 26, 1932, in Kingsland, Arkansas, during the depths of the Great Depression. His parents, Ray and Carrie Cash, were poor cotton farmers struggling to survive. He was the fourth of 7 children, and because his parents couldn't decide on a name, they simply called him J.R. Cash. From the time he was 5, he was hauling water to the cotton fields, and by 8, he was picking cotton himself, singing to ease the pain in his back. Those long silent fields shaped his voice, his rhythm, and the soul of his songs. In 1935, the Cash family moved to Dyess Colony, a New Deal farming project in Mississippi County, Arkansas, designed to give poor families a second chance. They were given a 5-room house with no plumbing and 20 acres of wild land. Clearing that land by hand became their new life. It was backbreaking work, but the promise that one day they might own it kept them going. J.R. grew up wearing hand-me-down clothes, sleeping beside his brothers, and learning hymns from his mother, a devout Pentecostal who believed music was a gift from God. She taught him to play guitar and piano and saved money to buy him singing lessons. But after 3 lessons, his teacher told her he didn't need them. His voice was already perfect. When J.R. was 12, he began writing songs. His music came from faith, pain, and the silence of the fields. That faith would be tested in 1944, when tragedy struck the family. His older brother Jack, the one everyone believed was destined to be a preacher, was nearly cut in half by a table saw while working in a school shop. J.R. had begged him to go fishing that day, but Jack refused. He lived for 8 agonizing days before dying, telling his mother in his final moments that he could see angels. At the funeral, their father turned to Johnny and said, "You hear that empty can? That's what you are." It was a wound that never healed. At 18, Cash enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. Because the military didn't accept initials as names, he became John R. Cash. He was stationed in Landsberg, Germany as a Morse code interceptor, listening to Soviet transmissions during the Cold War. He later claimed he was the first to intercept news of Stalin's death in 1953, though some doubted it. In Germany, he bought his first guitar, formed a group called the Landsberg Barbarians, and began writing songs that would shape his sound. When he returned to the United States in 1954, he married Vivian Liberto, who had waited for him through 4 years of letters. They settled in Memphis, where Cash sold appliances door to door before forming a trio with 2 mechanics, Luther Perkins and Marshall Grant. They called themselves the Tennessee Two. When Cash auditioned for Sun Records, producer Sam Phillips turned him down, saying gospel music wouldn't sell. Cash came back with Cry Cry Cry, and Phillips signed him. The song sold over 100,000 copies, and Folsom Prison Blues, recorded later that year, reached number 4 on the country charts. By 1957, he was outselling everyone at Sun Records, even Elvis Presley. But behind the success, his life was unraveling. To keep up with the pace of touring, he began taking amphetamines and barbiturates. His marriage to Vivian fell apart as he became increasingly erratic. He wrote "I Walk the Line" as a promise of faithfulness, even as he was slipping into infidelity. In 1958, frustrated with Sun's restrictions, he signed with Columbia Records, where he released "Don't Take Your Guns to Town," another massive hit. But the drugs took their toll. His voice deteriorated, his weight dropped, and his shows grew unpredictable. By 1965, he had been banned from the Grand Ole Opry after smashing stage lights with a microphone stand while high. During this chaotic period, he fell deeply in love with June Carter, who toured with him. Their love affair was intense and complicated, as he was still married. By 1967, addiction had destroyed nearly everything. One day that year, he crawled deep into Nickajack Cave in Tennessee, planning to die there. His flashlight died, leaving him in total darkness. Lying on the cold rock floor, he waited for death, but instead felt a strange peace. He later said he sensed God's presence and realized his life was not his to end. Following a faint breeze, he crawled until he saw light. When he emerged, June and his mother were waiting outside. It was a turning point. In November of that year, he performed sober for the first time in more than a decade. A few months later, he proposed to June on stage, and they married in March 1968. Their duet "Jackson" won a Grammy, and soon the Johnny Cash Show made them America's most beloved country couple. Yet even their marriage was scarred by addiction and betrayal. During June's pregnancy in 1970, Cash had an affair with her sister Anita. Though it never became public, it caused deep pain within the family. Despite personal chaos, Cash's public life flourished. His live albums recorded at Folsom Prison in San Quentin became legendary, turning him into a symbol of rebellion and compassion. He performed in more than 30 prisons, advocating for inmates and testifying before Congress about prison reform. He wore black, he said, for the poor, the beaten, and the prisoner who has long paid for his crime. In the early 1970s, he got baptized again and stayed sober for several years, releasing the protest anthem Man in Black. But by the 1980s his body was failing, and he slipped into addiction once more. In 1983, after his family staged an intervention, Cash checked himself into the Betty Ford Center and got clean again. He called it the best 43 days of my life. But his career was floundering. Columbia Records dropped him in 1986 after nearly 3 decades. For years he was seen as a relic of another time. That changed when producer Rick Rubin approached him in the early 1990s. Rubin, known for working with heavy metal and rap artists, offered Cash complete creative freedom. They recorded in Rubin's living room and in Cash's Tennessee cabin. The result was American Recordings in 1994, a stark, haunting album that reintroduced him to a new generation. Songs like Delia's Gone and The Beast in Me stripped away all glamour, revealing a man wrestling with mortality and faith. Cash's voice, roughened by illness, carried an honesty few artists ever reach. When he appeared at Glastonbury in 1994 before 100,000 people, he stood tall in black, the crowd roaring every word. It was a moment of resurrection. The peak of his late career came with American 4. The Man Comes Around in 2002, featuring his devastating cover of 9 Inch Nails' Hurt. The music video, filmed in the decaying House of Cash Museum, showed his frail body and June Carter watching him with quiet, unwavering love. It became one of the most powerful farewells in music history. June died in May 2003 after heart surgery, and Johnny followed her 4 months later, on September 12, 2003, at age 71. In his final months he recorded until he could no longer hold a guitar. At his last performance in July 2003 in a wheelchair he said softly, "The spirit of June overshadows me tonight." After his death, hundreds of tapes were found at his estate, songs, hymns, and letters he never shared. Johnny Cash's life was a battle between faith and darkness, sin and redemption. He rose from the cotton fields of Arkansas to the heights of American music, fell into addiction, and clawed his way back through faith, love, and art.